What if I told you one of the most powerful tech companies in the world is making money even when you don't buy their products? What if I told you every time someone buys an iPhone, a competitor still gets paid? And what if I told you the real business behind Samsung has almost nothing to do with phones, because behind the scenes there's a hidden empire powering the devices, the screens, and even the chips that run the modern world? Welcome back to Behind the Money, where we break down how the biggest companies really make their money. And today, we're breaking down Samsung. When most people hear Samsung, they think of smartphones, Galaxy phones, foldables, maybe TVs, and yes, Samsung sells hundreds of millions of devices every year. But here's the truth, phones are just the surface, because Samsung isn't just a tech company, it's an empire. Let's start with the part most people don't see, semiconductors. Samsung is one of the largest chip manufacturers in the world, and these aren't just any chips. We're talking about memory chips, processors, and components used in everything. Phones, laptops, servers, and AI systems. Even companies like Apple have relied on Samsung's components. Let that sink in. Samsung makes money from its competition. This is where things get interesting. Because while everyone is focused on who sells the most phones, Samsung is getting paid either way. Samsung doesn't just sell products, it supplies the world. Every time a smartphone is made, a TV is built, or a data center is expanded, there's a good chance Samsung is involved, because Samsung dominates in memory chips, OLED displays, and storage technology. And here's where it gets powerful. While companies fight for customers, Samsung sells to all of them. It's not picking sides, it's collecting checks. Now let's talk about smartphones again. Because they're still important, but not for the reason you think. Samsung phones are a revenue stream, a brand builder, and a testing ground for innovation. But they also act as marketing. Every Galaxy phone sold strengthens Samsung's ecosystem and pushes its technology further into the market. But here's the twist. Even if Samsung loses the phone battle to competitors, it can still win financially because it supplies the parts. Here's one of the craziest parts of this entire story. Samsung and Apple are competitors, but also business partners. Samsung has supplied OLED displays, memory chips, and key components for iPhones. So every time someone buys an iPhone, Samsung can still profit. Think about that. No matter who wins, Samsung wins. Samsung didn't build this empire overnight. They expanded aggressively across the world to control manufacturing, reduce costs, and scale globally. From South Korea to Vietnam to the United States, Samsung built a network that allows it to produce at massive scale while staying flexible. Because in industries like semiconductors, if you fall behind, you disappear. But here's where Samsung separates itself from almost everyone else. It doesn't just follow trends, it invests ahead of them. Samsung spends tens of billions of dollars every single year on research and development. And that money is focused on one thing: staying ahead. Right now, Samsung is investing heavily into next-generation chips, trying to compete directly with companies like NVIDIA in the AI space. Because artificial intelligence isn't just software, it runs on hardware. And whoever controls that hardware controls the future. Samsung is also pushing into advanced chip manufacturing, trying to compete with companies like TSMC to become the go-to foundry for the world's biggest tech companies. If they win that race, the upside is massive. Because instead of just making their own chips, they would manufacture chips for everyone else too. That means more customers, more contracts, more control. But that's not all. Samsung is also betting big on the future of devices. Foldable phones, rollable displays, next-generation screens that could completely change how we interact with technology. While other companies are playing it safe, Samsung is experimenting in public, and even if some of those products fail, they still gain something valuable: data, experience, and a head start. Samsung is also expanding into automotive technology, because modern cars are no longer just vehicles, they're computers on wheels. And guess what those computers need? Chips, displays, sensors, all areas where Samsung already has a strong presence. So as the world moves toward electric and autonomous vehicles, Samsung is positioning itself to be a key supplier in that ecosystem too. And this is how the strategy keeps expanding. It's not just about one industry, it's about being inside all of them: phones, computers, data centers, cars, AI, infrastructure. Samsung isn't just competing in one lane, it's building the entire highway. But staying on top isn't easy. Samsung faces intense competition from companies like Apple in consumer devices, NVIDIA in AI chips, and TSMC in manufacturing. And in the chip industry especially, things can change fast. Prices can crash, demand can drop, and profits can swing hard. But what makes Samsung different is its ability to survive those cycles, because when one part of the business slows down, another part can pick up. If phone sales drop, chips might rise. If chips struggle, displays or storage can carry the load. It's a diversified machine, and that's what makes it powerful. So what's the real takeaway? Samsung isn't just a company, it's a system. While others fight for attention, Samsung builds the foundation behind the scenes. While others sell products, Samsung supplies the world. And while people argue about which phone is better, Samsung is quietly getting paid from both sides. And this is why, when you look at companies like Samsung, you have to think bigger. Because the real money isn't always where you think it is. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below. Because we're breaking down how money really moves behind the scenes. And trust me, the deeper you go, the crazier it gets. Because in today's world, the most powerful companies aren't the ones you see, they're the ones quietly powering everything.